magical treats taste great, but justice and equality taste better. To combat hate, all ad revenue from my HB Kitchen will be donated to trans and LGBTQ charities. Thank you for supporting the kitchen and helping make the world a better place. Mischief managed. Hello witches, wizards, and those who have just escaped from Azkaban, welcome back to my Harry Potter Kitchen, the YouTube series where we're baking our way through the Harry Potter books, creating magical recipes every time we find an item of food and drink inside. If you missed last week's recipe where we reached the leaky cauldron and made some edible butter beer flavoured jellies, then check out the link down below in the description to catch up. And if you're new to the kitchen and you don't want to miss a Harry Potter recipe, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on the notification bell so you get an alert every Magic Monday when there's a brand new recipe. Speaking of which, it is Magic Monday, so let's make some magic. This week's recipe can also be found in Chapter 3 of the Prisoner of Azkaban, The Night Bus, and it's not too far after last week's recipe that we see Tom, the innkeeper, reappeared wearing an apron over his nightshirt and bearing a tray of tea and crumpets. We've already tackled tea quite a few times already this season, so let's bring on the crumpets. Crumpets are back. Earlier on at the start of the Philosopher's Stone, we served up some lightning bolt crumpets, which were pretty iconic, so we've got a tough job topping that this time round. But you know I love a bit of house pride, so I decided to create 4 different flavoured crumpets inspired by a traditional crumpet recipe, but we're going to infuse those with some fresh fruit so they add a little bit of brightness to your morning. Whether you want the Gryffindor, Slytherin, Ravenclaw or Hufflepuff variety, these all taste incredible and they are super easy to make. So I'm going to walk you through step by step, and this is all you need to do. To begin making your crumpet batter, you want to start by heating some water and milk until it's lukewarm. Add in your sugar and yeast and then whisk until well combined. Leave this to one side for 5 minutes until frothy. That's how you'll know your yeast has activated. In a separate bowl, I'm going to measure out my flour and add in my salt and bicarbonate of soda and then mix that together until well combined before making a well in the middle. This is where our liquid is going to go. Once the yeast mixture is ready, you can pour that into the centre and then mix the whole thing into a smooth paste. It won't be as thick as a usual bread dough, but won't be as thin as a pancake batter, so you want it somewhere in between. This then needs to rise to give the yeast a chance to work, so cover it with cling film and pop it into a warm place for about an hour until it's doubled in size. Just like when you're making bread, leaving your dough to rise is a really important step. That's going to give our yeast a chance to activate and start creating all of those wonderful bubbles which crumpets are known for. Once that's out, we're then going to flavour it before we move to cooking those crumpets. It's super easy to add the flavour, and don't worry, if you're not a fan, you can just make plain crumpets and then top it off with any extra flavourings that you prefer. I've gone with fruits in some iconic Hogwarts House inspired flavours, but let me know which one tickles your fancy. Once the crumpet batter is lovely and bubbly, I'm going to peel off the cling film and then mix that through to knock the air back. Divide this into 4 bowls and then it's time to get flavouring. For Gryffindors, I'm making some raspberry crumpets, so all I'm doing is adding the raspberries into a blender and then blitzing that until smooth. You want to add about a tablespoon into your batter and then mix that through until well combined. The fruit should loosen it up until it's about the consistency of a thick pancake batter. If yours is too thick, try to add in some extra milk rather than more fruit, otherwise it will cause your crumpets to sink. If you prefer a sweeter crumpet and you're not using jam, you can also add some sugar at this point as well. Next, I'm going to move on to my Slytherin crumpets, which are going to be kiwi. So I'm going to peel my kiwi, slice that into rough chunks, add into my blender and blitz. The process is the same for Ravenclaw, where I'm using some blueberries, so blitz that up into a puree as well. And then for Hufflepuff, I am using honey, so I'm just going to add that straight into the batter, and again you can add some milk in to thin it down if you need. Once all your flavoured crumpet batters are nice and smooth, it's time to get frying. Traditionally, crumpets are served in individual sized rounds, but as you'll know, because we made lightning bolt crumpets before, you can cook them into any shape you like. You just need to get yourself a non-stick cutter or ramekin. Trust me, you want to try and get a good non-stick variety, otherwise it can stick and burn inside there, which makes it really difficult to get a nice clean shape out. For this one, I've gone for a nice mix of some rounds and some hearts, because I love crumpets. Place a pan on a low heat, add in some oil, and then allow that to warm up. I'm then going to add in my rings, and you want to make sure you grease them nice and well to help our crumpets slide out. I'm then going to add 1 to 2 tablespoons of the crumpet batter into each mould, and you want to let that cook for about 5 minutes until bubbles start to rise to the surface. It will happen as it cooks, but once they start to pop and hold their shape, you'll know it's ready to flip. You'll know you have the right consistency for your batter if you can add it in and it gently spreads to the side of the rings. If it's too thick, then make sure you add some extra milk before frying the next batch. As I only added honey to the Hufflepuff crumpets, they are slightly thicker, which is why you don't see as many holes. Lift off the rings and then flip your crumpets over and allow them to cook for another minute. At this point, you can remove them from the frying pan and allow the excess oil to drip off onto some kitchen towel. Once you finish with your first flavour, move on to the next. These Hogwarts House inspired crumpets are best served warm. If you made them in advance, then all you need to do is pop them into the toaster for 30 seconds to a minute. Spread over your favourite toppings, and whether that's butter, syrup or jam, these crumpets are going to taste incredible. So that is our magical twist on the classic crumpet recipe complete. These look and taste incredible, so I hope you will give them a go. Let me know down below in the comments if you do. That's all for this week's recipe, but if you want to see more from My Harry Potter Kitchen, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on the notification bell so you get an alert every Magic Monday when there's a brand new recipe. And I'll let you into a secret. You don't have to be a Gryffindor, Slytherin, Ravenclaw or Hufflepuff to enjoy these crumpets. And I'm going to prove it by eating them all. I'll see you next week.